The tabernacle in the wilderness had only just been consecrated, and God gave careful instructions concerning how the sanctuary should be run, how the sacrifices should be made, how the services should be carried out. But two of the sons of Aaron, who were ministers at the sanctuary, deviated from what God had asked. Leviticus 10:2 says, "And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord." They offered what the Bible calls strange fire instead of using the incense God mandated. A person might be tempted to think that was a severe way for God to deal with the situation. Fire consumed them because they used the wrong incense? It's worth thinking this through. It's not that they accidentally somehow opened the wrong jar, got the incenses mixed up. No, as leaders in Israel, they chose to ignore God's instructions and rebel against what they knew to be God's will. So couldn't God simply have forgiven them? Well, I guess he could have, but there are a couple of things we need to be aware of. One is we aren't given all the details in the story. We don't know all that Nadab and Abihu had been doing. This likely wasn't the first time they'd been rebellious. And their disobedience was very public. They were ministers in a high position, and they couldn't be setting a bad example, acting like it wasn't important how you relate to God. The lesson we learn isn't simply that God will send fire from heaven if you disobey. That's not it. The lesson we learn is that God is particular, and it's important that we don't ever feel like our position gives us license to sin against God, to do what we please, to rebel against God. We shouldn't get careless with God. Yes, God is gracious. God is merciful. We are thankful for that. But we don't want God's mercy to lead us to think that sin is of no consequence. When it comes to sin, when it comes to keeping it straight, consequence, Nadab and Abihu would tell you sin is of great consequence. I'm John Bradshaw for It Is Written. If you're not doing so, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And let's live today by every word.